What's up YouTube, Capital G here. So I'm going to take a look at Trepanier's regional deck that he took to Montreal. He got top 4 and it was Thunder Family. Now this is a very interesting deck and I played against it on DN. It's actually pretty legit. And one of the most intriguing things about this deck is the fact that, you know, when you look at all the monsters, Ma and Pa and Sis, they're all really puny, but the deck's playstyle is very aggressive. It's basically a beatdown deck, but it doesn't do any beatdown with any of the core monsters. None of your Thunder monsters are really going to be doing any of the fighting. The beatdown comes from your C and your Synchro stream. Now, most decks would have problems continually putting these out every single turn, having to rely on things like Avarice to reload, but this deck doesn't. When you have cards like Recycling Batteries and Sis Thunder that can get you your pieces back every single turn, let alone Thunder Seahorse, which searches pretty much anything from the deck, you're not going to really have any problems just, you know, dropping rank 4 Xyz at level 8 Synchros every single turn. And when we get some of the OCG rank 4 Xyz, this deck's even going to get better. So let's go ahead and talk about the deck right quick. He's got 3 copies of Ma Thunder, 3 Paw Thunders, and 2 Sis Thunders. And then he's got 3 Thunder Seahorse, 2 Violon Prisms for Synchro options, 2 Tragos, 1 Gores, 2 Max C, and 2 Card Troopers. For the spells, he's got 3 Recycling Batteries, 3 MST, 2 Pot of Dualities, 1 Pot of Avarice, Dark Hole, Monster Reborn, and Heavy Storm. For the traps, we've got 2 Monster Reborn, 2 Torrential Tribute, 2 Solemn Warning, 1 Solemn Judgment, and Compulse Evac Device. So the heart and soul of this deck is Paw and Ma Thunder, and these guys do the same exact thing. They're what allow the deck to go into beatdown mode, basically. These cards are the cards that are going to allow you to continually drop level 8 Synchros and rank 4 Xyz in the same exact turn. Also, considering the summon that they allow you to do is a normal summon, these cards have a pretty good resistance to Max C, as opposed to things like Bogart Knight, where your opponent can just wait to see if you're going to activate the effect, chain Max C, and then put you in a pretty tight bind. Thunder Seahorse is fantastic because it tutors basically the entire deck. I mean, this guy can search for anything. Violon Prism is very key to this deck because it extends your arsenal. If you just had the 1 turn Xyz plays with Ma and Pa, I mean, that would still be good, but the deck would feel somewhat limited. When you add Violon Prism and the ability to make Synchros, you get these great cards like Crimson Blader and Avenging Knight that can just flat out end games. I mean, this deck can just be downright nasty. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when Violon Prism is used to Synchro up, you should be able to activate his effect and equip this guy to that Synchro that you're going to Synchro summon. And when you're talking about a 3500 Stardust Dragon or a 3800 Crimson Blader, I mean, you're just going to coast to victory. Trago and Gores fit in perfectly with this deck. The same goes for Max C. And the reason I say this is because this deck always keeps a very large hand size. So Trago is ideal, but the deck doesn't particularly play great defense. So that's why cards like Gores fit in perfectly. Card Trooper works well because it can get you cards into the graveyard so that you can activate Recycling Batteries and so that you can activate your Sis Thunder, you know, banish a card and then get it back at the end phase. Recycling Batteries is one of the key spell cards in this deck, along with Pot of Avarice, because it basically makes sure that you never go on empty. Your tank never goes dry. You always have a way to constantly recycle, which means every single freaking turn you're going to be dropping a rank 4 Xyz, you're going to be dropping a level 8 Synchro, and that basically is just used to overwhelm your opponent. Now, I really love Mirror Force in this deck, and I say that because some of the rank 4s that you're going to make, you know, aren't the biggest monsters. Photon Butterfly, Steelsworn Roach, you know, these cards have very good effects, but sometimes they need protection. Double Mirror Force throws your opponent off. You know, it can just clear boards for you, and it's just a really good card overall. Now, I was a little shocked that he ran the full Solemn Brigade, and the reason I say that is because usually Thunder Family doesn't try to play defense all that well, which means that you're gonna have cards like Gores and Trago playing defense for you, so you don't want to really limit yourself as far as life point goes. And you know, if you want to be able to take some direct attacks and then drop those cards, when you play the once you play the Solemn Brigade and you play like Gores and Trago in the same deck, it can get really dicey. I mean, if you Solemn early, your Gores can potentially come dead, so I'm not quite sure about that. One card that you guys might immediately think, why isn't this in here? And I actually agree with it not being in here, is Honest. The thing about Honest is, Yes, it works with the entire Thunder family. It works with Vylon. It works with Thunder Seahorse. But again, these are not the monsters that do the fighting. The monsters that do the fighting are your Xyz, are your Synchros. So you're really not going to have these cards on the field. The only thing that Honest really does is Honest allows you to counter the Effect Veiler plays. Because if your opponent Effect Veilers any of your monsters, you will pretty much be stuck on that, you know, Ma or Sis Thunder on the field, and those cards aren't really doing shit, you know what I mean? These cards are like 1,1300 beat sticks. They're not doing anything. So Honest can protect them for a turn, but outside of that, I'm not really seeing that it is a that it's necessary in this deck. One card that is going to immensely help this deck is Constellar Omega, because it gives you a rank 4 Xyz that cannot be, you know, it cannot be destroyed by spells or traps. I mean, when this guy hits the field, you're talking no D-Prison, no Bottomless, no Torrential, no Book of Moon, no Mirror Force. I mean, this guy is just fantastic. No Dark Hole. When this guy comes out, it's going to add another bit of, or it's going to add just another piece to this deck's arsenal. You're not going to have to worry about, you know, those back rows as much, because if your opponent has non-chainable things, this guy's just going to eat that shit up. Now, Honest might become a little more valuable to this deck then, because if you're going to be making this guy who has a built-in Forbidden Lance, you know, that can be used twice on both players' turns, then Honest becomes a little more valuable. So let me know what you guys think. I think that this deck has definite potential. I think the extra deck might need to be cleaned up. He probably should have ran Abyss Dweller for the Mermail match. But overall, I think it's a pretty solid deck. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll talk to you later.